Welcome back to Chalkline Crime and this educational video. In the quiet coastal city of New Bedford, Massachusetts, a sinister tale unfolds. The year was 1988. Nestled by the sea, New Bedford basked in its tranquility, a haven for families and fishermen alike. Cobblestone streets echoed with the laughter of children, and the air was filled with the scent of salt and the distant hum of boat engines. The city, a portrait of peace, was blissfully unaware of the storm brewing in its midst. As the days grew shorter and the nights colder, the city was about to experience a winter like no other. Unseen, unheard, an ominous presence lurked in the shadows, ready to shatter the serenity. The residents went about their daily routines, completely oblivious to the impending terror. Neighbors greeted each other with warm smiles, children played in the parks, and the city continued to thrive. Little did they know, a chilling horror was about to grip their serene city. As the spring of 1988 gave way to summer, women started to vanish. A chilling phrase, isn't it? But it's not from a horror movie. It's the grim reality that unfolded in New Bedford, Massachusetts. These women were not your everyday individuals. They were vulnerable, living on the fringes of society and struggling with their own personal demons. Many of them were ensnared in the unforgiving cycle of addiction, and their circumstances made them targets. They were mothers, daughters, sisters, friends, each with a story that was abruptly cut short. The first woman vanished in April, and then another in May, and yet another in June. The disappearances were so seamless, so silent, it was as though they were plucked from the face of the earth by an invisible hand. There were no signs of struggle, no traces of violence, just an empty space where a person used to be. The community was plunged into a state of fear and uncertainty. The local law enforcement was baffled. The media was buzzing with speculation. Was a serial killer on the loose? Was it a trafficking ring? Or were these disappearances unrelated, mere coincidences? The people of New Bedford could only guess and wait and hope for the best. But as the summer wore on, the disappearances became more frequent. The pattern was as clear as it was terrifying. These were not isolated incidents, and the women of New Bedford were not safe. The families of the missing were living their worst nightmares, their loved ones gone without a trace. The entire community was held hostage by a growing sense of dread. The city's streets, once filled with life and laughter, were now the backdrop of an unfolding horror story. The local hangouts, the parks, the alleyways, every corner held the potential for danger. The safe haven that was their city had turned into a hunting ground. One by one they disappeared, leaving behind a city gripped by an unseen terror. The grim reality of the situation came to light when the first body was discovered. The once serene landscapes lining the highway were transformed into chilling crime scenes. As the morning sun cast long shadows on the asphalt, the tranquility was shattered by a discovery that sent shockwaves through the community. It was a scene that was both horrifying and heart-wrenching. The first victim was found, a cruel testament to the unseen threat that had been lurking in the shadows. The police, their faces etched with grim determination, worked meticulously, hoping to unearth clues that would lead them to the perpetrator. As the news spread, a wave of disbelief swept across the city. Friends and neighbors huddled together, trading whispers of concern and fear. The once busy streets turned eerily quiet as the reality of the lurking danger sank in. The city that had once been a haven of peace was now haunted by a chilling presence. But the horror did not end there. Over the course of several weeks, more bodies were discovered. Each discovery was a stark reminder of the monster that walked among them. The bodies, found along the highway, were like a macabre breadcrumb trail left by the predator. And with each discovery, the sense of security and normalcy in the city was further eroded. The police, their resources stretched thin, were in a race against time. As they tried to piece together the horrifying puzzle, the city held its breath, hoping against hope that the nightmare would soon end. But the grim discoveries along the highway confirmed the city's worst fears. The peaceful city was now a hunting ground for a ruthless predator. The unseen threat had manifested itself in the most horrifying way possible. The city was in the grip of a serial killer, a phantom who had turned the highway into a chilling tableau of his monstrous deeds. The peaceful city was now a hunting ground for a ruthless predator. As the body count grew, so did the determination to catch the killer. Law enforcement agencies were thrown into a frenzied pursuit, their mission to bring this reign of terror to an end. But this was no ordinary hunt. The New Bedford highway killer was a master of evasion, leaving behind very little trace of his horrific deeds. Investigators found themselves grappling with a dearth of tangible evidence. The crime scenes were meticulously cleaned, the victims left with no personal belongings. It was as if the killer was a ghost, leaving no footprints in his wake. Detective units, forensic specialists, and seasoned profilers joined forces, working around the clock trying to piece together the elusive puzzle. They scoured through countless leads, analyzed every scrap of potential evidence, and held numerous interrogations. Yet the breakthrough they sought remained elusive. Despite their best efforts, the killer remained a phantom, always one step ahead. Years turned into decades, and the New Bedford highway killer case went cold. The once fervent pursuit of justice has now been replaced by an eerie silence, punctuated only by the occasional rustling of case files gathering dust. Today, the investigation remains at a standstill. Despite the tireless efforts of numerous detectives and the passage of countless seasons, the identity of the New Bedford highway killer remains shrouded in mystery. This unsolved case continues to cast a long, dark shadow over the city, a chilling reminder of a time when fear gripped the streets and trust in the safety of the community was shattered. The city of New Bedford, though resilient, has never been able to fully shake off the haunting specter of these gruesome crimes. The memory of the victims and the unresolved nature of their fates continues to permeate the city's consciousness. If you would like to learn more about this case, we highly recommend reading Shallow Graves by Maureen Boyle, a local journalist who covered the murders as they happened and who is widely accepted as an expert on the case. If you have any information related to these murders, please contact 1-500-8505-INFO.